It's a place where new and innovative gameplay really rises to the top.
After spending weeks and weeks and weeks trying to create an interesting, virtual simulated physics game, this is about what I would come up with.
It's December 13, 2003. Gathered in the small city of San Mateo, California are engineers by the names of David Baszucki, Eric Castle, and a few of their friends. They're launching a game called Dinoblocks, a passion project that had been in the works since 1989. And despite their overtly rocky start, they managed securing a headquarters to kickstart their vision, the so-called vision of powering imagination. Let's take a step back and see how they got here in the first place. Baszucki and Castle had noticed a large gap in the early 2000s gaming industry. Most games coming out were solely accessible on certain consoles, with not much attention going to the current rising demand of PCs. The Nintendo 64, Sony PlayStation, and the new Nintendo GameCube may all sound familiar to you. The case being, they were single-handedly dominating the gaming market. At this time, games orientated towards computers were few and far in between. And one thing Baszucki found out was the lack of connection between those games and kids. And not these kids, but these kids. So much so that Baszucki uttered, neither kids nor gaming was hot at that time. In today's age, it would be fairly obvious to think when making a game, children would obviously be a big demographic to target since they tend to have the most time to waste time. But during the roaring 2000s, popular web browser games such as Club Penguin and Webkins had not been a thing yet, with Club Penguin launching and being bought just shortly after the launch of Dinoblocks and becoming a massive hit. So here, Baszucki took this opportunity to try for something he had no experience in. The man studied engineering and computer science after all, not software engineering. And with that, Dinoblocks is launched, and a year later, it receives its final name change to Roblox. In its wake, Roblox at first was just another browser game looking for recognition. Aside from the slogan powering imagination, the site had yet to offer much. Its first few months of players consisted of engineers and developers, most of whom were friends of Baszucki and Castle. But they all had faith in this business truly being something special. And special, it was. A platform where users and players themselves can make their own experiences, become their own developers, have their own economy, set up their own collective market, and dictate their own prices of items. It was a lot, and it had never been done before so cohesively. So as the months passed, the player base grew, and with that influx of players came a new wave of games, from horror to fighting arenas to showcases. That was really it. But it was quite the upgrade from before, because at the end of the day, the only restraint was your PC and your imagination. Now, those games mentioned above were all what we call genres, a classification of games based on their aspects of how they are played, and Roblox actually has a fairly interesting history with game genres on the platform. One that always struck interest to me was the genre of simulators. Now, I'm sure most of you veteran Roblox players rolled your eyes after hearing that. One of the most controversial and talked about genres on Roblox today are of it. It's kind of a trend to hate on simulators. But I promise you, it gets interesting, because simulators actually have a unique history on the platform. They weren't always like this, and I'll show you how, as this is the... It's 5 years later, September 22nd, 2008. A future popular dev by the name of Lando64000 uploads this. Season and Weather Simulator. Arguably the first self-proclaimed simulator, at least in the title, to grace Roblox, and the start of a doomed genre. To fully understand what we're diving into, we first must understand what a simulator is. Common sources online will lead you to this. A machine designed to provide a realistic imitation of a complex system, used for training purposes. Simulations of the real world. These are aircraft combat scenarios, tank battle strategies, and deep underwater vessel simulations manipulated to feel like the real deal. Obviously, this isn't what Season and Weather Simulator was. In fact, it had no vehicles in it, which brings us to simulator games. Here the apple doesn't fall far from the tree when defining simulator games to the prior example. Games designed to closely simulate real-world activities, not to be confused with imitations. The Sims, Madden, and War Thunder all fall as perfect examples of simulator games. Realistic enough to make one feel deeply immersed and maybe fool an unsuspecting person into thinking you're watching real footage, but still arcadey enough to enjoy as a game. The term simulator games as a whole is a very diverse category, often known as a supercategory, a parent category that contains a subcategory. The most common subgenres being life simulations, the aforementioned sports subgenre, and medical titles. It's somewhere in here you'll find Season and Weather Simulator falling under the nature umbrella. And with that out of the way, we can finally see what the game has to offer. Upon joining, you'll be set in the middle of a room with 4 directions to take, each one taking you to a different season. Spring and summer sporting less greenery with the occasional rain, while autumn shows beautiful leaves slowly falling down, and with winter, of course, being winter. Honestly, for the most part, this experience was fairly nuanced and arguably ahead of its time. This was indeed a video game simulator. Other great examples to complement this were Transportation Simulator V1 by Robot 56, My Real House by The Earthbound, and One Billy Bob One's legendary Tornado Alley. So why are these games important? They aren't, not yet at least. Because the word simulator on the platform would maintain this status, pertaining to its actual definition. Nature simulators, transportation simulators, all of these alongside the growth of other experiences on the site, such as minigames, kept the platform well diverse, users well entertained, and developers close with their respective communities. You can see where this is going. 2012 comes around, and with it, a new era within Roblox. New games, new communities, and new features alike spilling onto the platform. More importantly though, we got to see the further development of simulators appearing on the platform. They would be sorta in this limo altercations-like state up until 2016. For the most part, everything up to this point had been fairly smooth sailing for the platform. Same concepts we've already seen were better evolving, becoming more innovative as the years passed on, with some notable simulators appearing that you've likely played yourself. These being Innovation Labs, the Rocket Experiences, and Dry Blocks Unlimited. Though not harmful, these games were inherently different from what we were seeing back in 2008. A trend pointing more towards gameplay-heavy simulator experiences was rising, likely due to the surge of new players hitting the platform looking for something simple. Ironically, a term turned for the worse in the future. It's fair for some to argue that this was a foothold and turning point for simulators on the platform. Though Innovation Labs and the like were unique and definitely enjoyable, they consisted of gameplay loops. The repetitive activity players might have to deal with in games. This was especially noticeable with Dry Blocks. The goal in that game simply being to drive around for money, to buy a better car to make more money, to buy another car to get more money for a house to make more money for cars to, you guessed it, make more money. Thing is, the audience didn't see it as just that back then though. At that time, Dry Blocks was this big shiny innovative roleplay game that just so happened to have a driving for money mechanic in it. Roleplaying a family, racing your friends, and making new ones were the main appeal, and what everyone was doing with no worries. I myself can recall my time spent exploring the city, drag racing my friends and brother until we had the fastest cars possible. It was only then that ping would determine the winner. But if we really want to get into the meat and bones of the whole gameplay loop appearing in simulators, then I should address the absolute titan in the room that appeared way back in 2008. Yes, I'm talking about natural disaster survival. One of the few gameplay loops so well made and so simple that to this day remains a popular and fun classic to play, garnering 3 billion visits over its 16 years on the platform while still being updated. An absolute slam dunk for the developers and the platform as a whole. Now some of you may be a little confused on why I'm bringing up NDS, considering it doesn't exactly look like a simulation game. But the truth of the matter is, this game simulates natural disasters, and quite a few of them too. It's important to note here that just because a game doesn't sport the word simulator at this point, doesn't mean it wouldn't qualify as one, unlike in the earlier years of Roblox. NDS truly was something special, both for its time and even now. It could be said that these are among some of the best years of simulator games appearing on the platform. Sure, it gave rise to the term gameplay loop in the genre, but 9 times out of 10, they were never harmful or felt repetitive and monotonous. All of these games still maintained a unique identity, being completely different from one another, and adding new mechanics to keep viewers playing. And that same mindset will be used in the next pseudo-generation of simulations with Big Rig's 2013 experience, Mow My Lawn, now called Mow My Lawn 2. An experience often coined the first modern Roblox simulator that one could imagine when thinking of slop games of today. Mow My Lawn 2 was, simply put, held up by gameplay loops. You're set on a plot of land with grass to mow, with the only goal in the game being mowing the most amount of grass as quickly as possible. To get to that goal, you must tediously mow down grass, get clippings to buy a better mower so you can get clippings faster to buy an even better mower. Sounds familiar? Yet, the difference between Mow My Lawn and Dry Blocks was massive. Even though Dry Blocks had a similar loop mechanic, it wasn't what made the game. You could roleplay, explore an open world city, and have a blast with friends, all while working towards the end goal of the game. Whereas, the grinding aspect of Mow My Lawn was the game, placed into a confined part of a map with one thing to do: mow your lawn. Now to be fair, Mow My Lawn did have other mechanics to spice up the experience. The game had bosses you could periodically fight to get rewards that would help you with your grind, and they honestly weren't too bad. The map was also littered with secrets players could find, featuring obbies and more fights for more equipment. The game wasn't all bad. Regardless of that though, players of Mow My Lawn 2 and games similar would sometimes comment about its obviously slow and tedious process, and with the launch of that game, would begin to spiral the genre down a rabbit hole of developers trying to keep the attention span of its player base. Despite this, we still saw some amazing simulation games come out, with one game in particular going back to the roots with a classic simulation game. Pilot Training Flight Simulator. An absolutely incredible game for its time, and even now. For a Roblox experience, the game does really well with capturing the awesome mechanics of controlling different vehicles, not to mention its massive map with multiple islands and landmasses to explore and a wide selection of aircraft. If it wasn't for the Lego-like appearance, this game would straight up be a simulation, similar to Microsoft's Flight Sims, but free. Years down the road though, my favorite and, in my opinion, the best simulation experience to grace this platform launches. Dinosaur Simulator. This game is perfect, and I mean that in every aspect. In a genre where the trend was starting to bend towards short and simple gameplay loops, Dinosaur Simulator defied it all and chose its own path. Summarize, you play as a dinosaur of your likings that you have unlocked. Starting off as a newborn making it to adulthood, your ultimate goal is to survive as prehistoric dinosaurs and other unique creatures against predators, natural disasters, and starvation or dehydration. The map was very expansive, and the situations you can come across on each life was endless. Want to lone wolf as an apex predator? You got it. Want to start a pack to boost y'all's chances of survival? Go for it. Or maybe you wish to take to the skies or lurk in the murky depths. You could do and encounter whatever. I admittedly have played many hours of this game when I was younger and never have not enjoyed a single moment of it. The absolute freedom one could have with deciding how they wanted to roam the prehistoric lands, or simply how cool it was to be dinosaurs just trying to survive, was always an amazing feeling. A feeling only bolstered by the game's impressive graphics at the time and deep-rooted mechanics. Unique weather, disasters, hunger, thirst, and growth mechanics, I could go on and on. I myself am not the one to say what I do or don't think was the best era of Roblox genres or Roblox altogether. But all I know is that 2015 to 2017 was a damn good time to be playing. Other honorable mentions go to Work at a Pizza Place, Vehicle Simulator, and Tornado Simulator. Even though these games were absolute innovative gems on the platform, all good things eventually come to a bitter end. As 2018 and onward saw the grossest decline in a genre that even managed to leak into other ones. Contrary to me saying it was all downhill after 2018, Weightlifting Simulator 2 actually released during late 2017. This is, without a doubt, the turning point in the term simulators on the platform and how they would be perceived in the years on. WLS was everything bad about Mow My Lawn 2, amplified. Your goal being to become the strongest weightlifter. That's it. There are no gimmicks, no secret game features or fancy mechanics, as all you do is tediously hit one button over and over. And that was the game. And it was an absolute hit. You see, the simulator genre wasn't the only thing going under changes these past years on the platform, as the platform itself had greatly changed. The audience had greatly changed. A site once strung together with a sub-even mix of teens, kids, and young adults alike was now almost entirely dominated by kids. And as I stated in the beginning of this video, kids have the most time to waste time. And waste time they did. WLS would set the early devastating standards and trends we commonly seen today. The endless clicking of one button to gain something, to then unlock another area, eventually to do it all over again. The cloning of game aspects and mechanics from one simulator to another, and much more. And you couldn't blame the developers. The numbers spoke volumes. They were drawing in thousands and thousands of concurrent players daily, playing for multiple hours on end grinding out their game. This was only made worse with the release of Weightlifting Simulator 3, which added rebirths and other ways players can gain strength. It's hard to believe that during a few years of a genre looking like it's going down the right path, just 1 year later it could all come crashing down to this. But could one even really call it crashing down? Simulators that followed this formula were at an all-time high in numbers and revenue, becoming the most popular in its most hideous and disingenuous form. And with all of it, the word simulator now had lost its meaning on the platform. But it only gets more atrocious from here. Because even though WLS set the foundation of how to cultivate a young audience to stick around on your game, another massive hit that would start the largest trend in simulators on the platform kicked the dirt right into our eyes. And that being none other than Pet Simulator. Now don't get me wrong, Pet Simulator was a relatively new concept for its time, and one that became so wildly successful that it just so happened to shape most of all future simulations. Not only did it utilize the gameplay loops of Weightlifting Simulator, but it added its own twist to it, sporting bright vivid colors, cute child-attracted pets, and the gotcha mechanic. Pet Simulator have realized something that the rest of the field failed to. If you have a game that can maintain a cult-like audience and an extensive gameplay loop to keep them playing, what was stopping them from adding a lucrative gambling and cop-out system for the kids? So that's exactly what they did. And boy, was it profitable. So much so that not only were these simulators making the developers crazy money, but also Roblox itself a pretty penny. The modern era of Roblox simulators had touched down, and they were more successful at making developers money than anyone could comprehend. The methods of Pet Simulator would be the same formula, rinsed and repeated for essentially every simulator that would come out after. Bee Simulator, Bubblegum Simulator, Pet Simulator 99, Arm Wrestle Simulator, whatever you have it, would all, at its core, be the exact same game with a different look. A 16-year evolution that has seen heaven and earth now dwells in the abyss. The era that would come after this would simply consist of the same formula, just with less effort and more ways for developers to make a quick cash grab. Concepts copied over and over, mechanics so simplistic that even the youngest of players would eventually be tired out, and an everlasting gameplay loop with nothing to offer but ways to speed it up for an extra buck. This is what defines modern simulations of the platform today. A system that is so successful that you simply can't escape it anymore, with these formulas even showing up in the horror genre of all things. Looking at the platform now, it's hard to say where everything will go moving forward, but the trend shows that the platform won't heal from this mess, but rather squeeze out its mature audience and become a babyland browser, no matter how hard the CEOs try to implement adult features. Roblox's history goes far beyond simulator games on the platform, a wild and ambitious passion project turned mega business that succeeded in its classic slogan, to power one's imagination. And those simulators may have not been here since the days of Dinoblocks, that doesn't mean they can't be the end of a piece of our Roblox. But hey, it's just a stupid child's platform anyway, right?